Welcome to the SEGA Lounge, where we celebrate our love for all things SEGA, including the games, the music, and the community. I'm your host, KC. Join me as I talk to different guests and learn more about their projects and passion for SEGA. Hello everyone, and welcome to the SEGA Lounge. Hello everyone on Twitch. Hello everyone on RadioSEGA. Hope everyone is okay. This is a test, so if things go wrong, you can blame me as you usually do. That's why. No, just blame Lime. Just blame Lime. When in doubt.
Oh, okay. So then when it's not a test, then people can go back to blaming
still blame you. Yes.
Yeah.
Is there ever a scenario where anyone blames me? Or?
Nope, just Lime, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm used to it.
Love you, Lime. Really, seriously. Actually, love you both. Love you both. Thank you very much for joining me. So let's get to our proper introductions, right? So my name's KC. I'm usually the host of this thing called the SEGA Lounge. But more often than not, I'm joined somehow or aided or influenced to do something somehow by the man below me here.
Is that the Brady Bunch? Is it the Brady Bunch? Where do we go?
Maybe. James Brown, aka SkillJim. Hello, James.
Hello. Yeah, I don't know. So many times I'm on your show, KC. It's like I'm a competition winner or something.
Yeah.
Like your prize, you must feature in at least 10 episodes of the SEGA Lounge.
Okay. Welcome, James. Yeah. Now let's introduce our good friend, Lime Reversed. Hello.
Hello.
By the way, big shout out to people on Twitch. Jamie, Resident SD, and I think in terms of commenters, that's about it. But if you're around, let us know. Give us a shout, and we'll also give you a shout back. We also have 20 at least on the RadioSEGA chat. So this is a dual stream of sorts. This is like an experiment. That's why things not always go well, because I'm always testing stuff. And we're doing this on both RadioSEGA live and on Twitch as well, on this new channel, twitch.tv/the SEGA Lounge. And if it works somehow, and if we can iron out the kinks, especially this echo in terms of the guests, we'll definitely do this more often. But if you're around here live, let us know. We have stuff that we're going to comment on, news. I just realized, James, you have an awesome T-shirt. I just realized just now.
Look at that.
Yeah.
For people
representing
only listening to the audio, you're missing out. And mine is exclusive.
Yours is the new one, is it?
The new one,
an exclusive version.
Yes. So thank you for representing. Yeah, the SEGA Lounge.
I should have worn the SEGA shirt.
Yes.
I didn't even.
Oh, I forgot to bring water, but I have the mug. Anyway.
All right. This counts.
Yes,
this counts.
Sonic
there we
mug,
go.
Sonic mug. Yes. So we are going to comment on the news. We are going to comment on a specific topic as well regarding games preservation, and that's why I brought you guys along for the ride, James and Lime. I've been having a lot of fun on our panel discussions, so I thought you guys would like to join.
It's been
us.
awesome.
Yeah,
it's been very fun.
I think so. So we're going to start with the news. We have a Google Doc. We are so organized this time. We have a Google Doc, and we have some news that we are going to start discussing. By the way, just before that, if you're listening live, if you're just listening on RadioSEGA, go to radiose.j/Discord. We're watching the chat as well. If you have something to add to the discussion, to the conversation, we'll read your comment on air as well. Or if you prefer to watch, we're on twitch.tv/the SEGA Lounge, and just, use the chat on Twitch, and we'll also read your comment. That
Where
means Line
do the
has to wear the
comments
next
that
SEGA Lounge logo shirt, says Resident SD. Yes. Sorry, Line.
Where do the comments come from here? I see like comments here, like in the same window as the thingy we're using.
You can see the comments.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, this is even more amazing than I knew. Okay, than I thought.
Like, where do these come
Twitch
from?
Comments.
Are those from Twitch?
Yeah,
Twitch, okay.
Twitch comments. Yeah. So if you want to
get rid of
check
Twitch,
out
then no.
Radio Sega, you have to go to the Discord, radiose.g/Discord. By the way, that's where you can join us. And so, with that out of the way, let's look at some of the news that we're going to be covering. Briefly. I usually say briefly, but we talk and talk and talk. So, should we actually talk about the Sonic stuff? Is it worth it?
You can do. It'd be very brief. So,
would you like to take the lead on this one, James? Since you were the one that's
okay. I put this down expecting you guys to have finished them completely, so that's not on me. But I did try the Sonic Frontiers birthday DLC a little bit. So I like what they've done. I like the UI redesign, although it's like really crazy. I don't know if you've seen it. Did you say you played a little bit of it, Casey?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Like it's very bright and colourful. Yeah. But it's really cool. Or or how they've changed all the assets to like presents and things like that. And then you've got the challenge little things they've added, which so far, I mean, I've only done one map, but they've all kind of been the same. I don't know if you've tried any of the challenges.
Nope.
Okay, so it's like it's a score-based thing, but it seems to be exactly the same style for each individual one, and there's like 10 per map, I think. And basically, just within that little area, you get a score ranked based on how you combine combinations and collect. There's like a combination thing at the top there that's like out of 256 or something, and it's best I found to like destroy enemies. That like racks the points up the most. So I've been having a little fun with that, just like an extra little bit of a sidetrack thing. And then these new music icons, how they added the music. There's some more now, but for the most part, it just seems to be like area music. So there's no more, no Sonic R music, unfortunately.
Which is a shame. We need more.
And then there's
Sonic
supposed to be a
R
New
music.
Game Plus, but I didn't see it on the main menu. So unless you have to actually click New Game again, I'm not sure.
I think you have to beat the last boss again in order to get
the last boss again. I was thinking.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think so. I haven't really. I remember now. I tried one of the challenges. I think grabbed a few more songs. I think as well. Noticed the presents and stuff. Played around with it for a few minutes, but not much more than that.
Oh, and there's some new Coco as well, like some big Coco that are like actually really tricky and hard to find, which I quite enjoyed. So if you liked collecting the what were they called? The little things that were all in the sky and like dead awkward to find. It's kind of like that.
Okay.
The memory
tokens.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, and they're all dressed up in like all fancy.
Yeah, it's pretty
stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
They have a tire.
Yes.
And it keeps playing Happy Birthday.
Yes.
The Happy Birthday music.
Yes, that's it. So it really is a birthday DLC, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've not seen anything like that probably since like Sonic Adventure 1, where you could like go and log onto your Dreamcast and download a Christmas DLC. They don't really do many themed DLCs these days, do they? When you think about it, like seasonal things.
And really thinking about like supporting a game for so long, a Sonic game for so long. I don't. It's not even been a year yet, but we usually get like patches, a couple of patches, if at all, and that's it. So like proper. DLC with extra content and whatnot, game modes and characters. I don't think I can remember any time they did that.
Indeed not. And when they add new moves as well, like now you can unlock the spin dash. Like I don't think I've seen Sonic DLC where they do a thing like that.
Yeah. The most they've done is like Origins Plus and Mania Plus. So in terms of DLC, but I think this goes beyond that. I think,
Yeah, indeed.
It's kind of like an ongoing service, really, isn't it? I mean, they could continue to do it if they wanted to.
Yeah.
I don't know if there is any more plans for any more DLC after the final one that they.
And it actually goes with what we said last time we talked about Frontiers on the show, which is this is like the foundation, or should be the foundation of what Sonic is in the next few years, right? So are they actually taking their time with this, figuring out what people like and improving the original game to actually then release a better sequel?
Possibly.
Yeah, it seems like they do see value in playing around with new ideas even now. I think that is the idea that, we don't want to wait until next game until we try these ideas out. Why not bring it out as a DLC on the current game? See how it works, see how people react.
Yeah.
So I think that they are listening to the feedback here. And we'll be using that for the next game.
Yeah.
Which is very exciting. So that's
excellent. Yeah. We also had Origins Plus, but neither of us has really played a lot of it. I played a little bit of, I think, the 4 games with Amy, just to see how she controls. I really enjoyed it, to be honest, but that's about it. Just like one level of each game with Amy. That's what I did, and really enjoyed it. But
I played around the other day with the Plus, and I was really looking forward to, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, that in games like Sonic 2, for example, where you can use the drop dash, you kind of lost control a little bit after having used drop dash. That's at least what I can remember. But now they have added that back. So if you do the drop dash and if you jump, then you have more air control after that, which is awesome. So like, to me, that addition of a move now feels more connected with the game, which is good. It's always good to get more control as well.
Agreed.
So that's definitely a plus for me. And I played around a little bit with Amy as well, and I mean, it was fun.
You can say it's definitely an Origins Plus for you.
Sorry? Oh, did I say?
No, never mind. I just said you can say it's an Origins Plus for you.
Oh, okay. I see.
Thank you.
I haven't really gotten the hang of the Amy's version of the drop dash move. But it looks fun as well. So yeah.
I can see speedrunners having a lot of fun with Amy. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You can take care of bosses
so
much more quickly with Amy.
Yes.
Yeah. My excuse for like not playing the Origins Plus DLC yet is because there was like a tweet not too long ago from Pix and Love saying that they were doing a collector's edition, and I don't know what happened there. So I was kind of holding out buying the physical just in case that sort of resurfaced, but I don't want to have to buy the game 3 times.
Yeah, I've also been holding off getting to the DLC, because I am going to get to all of that, like both for the Origins and Frontiers. But for Frontiers, like, they keep adding new stuff, right? And I figured that, like, and for this last round, they added a new move, so I felt like maybe I'll just get back to try to 100% all of it when it's all done.
Yeah, I haven't bought that physically either. Yeah. Also, as Jamie is pointing out on Twitch, the problem is that all the bonus content was a download code with the physical release. And they said that the emulation is a bit poor with the Game Gear games, especially in the sound department. I think I tried Sonic Labyrinth, which is for me a terrible game, but for laughs, I tried it a little bit. It seemed fine.
I just thought of something, because I've been wondering why would they give the Game Gear version of 8-bit Sonic the Hedgehog, the Sonic the Hedgehog 2? Like it's like the window is narrower. You can't really see as much as you can. And I was a little bit like, why would you call this the definitive way to play the games? But that's not the case. But now I figured that, but wait a minute, some of those 8-bit games are exclusive to the Game Gear. So they would, either way, have to deal with the Game Gear technology. And so maybe they went with that. That's probably why. I never thought of that.
It's possibly that. And it's also the fact that they've already done the Game Gears as, I think it was it Sonic Mega Collection or something? Or one of the previous titles, or Sonic Gems Collection.
DX as well on the GameCube.
That was it,
them as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they probably literally just drag and drop the files, maybe.
And maybe because of, like Resident SD says, because for the American and Japanese companies behind the collection, the Master System doesn't exist. That's it's more of a European thing, the Master System. Yeah.
But thinking about it, both of these topics, the Frontiers and the Origins Plus, it kind of does lead into what we're going to be talking about, the preservation thing, because Frontiers one, I didn't even think about until we just talked about the DLC and the ongoing sort of service type style that they're doing. But that's not on the disc, is it? So in 40 years' time, if someone wants to play Sonic Frontiers, are they going to be able to play the birthday DLC, or is that going to be lost to?
That's the issue with this topic. Yeah, we'll get around to talking about that. So this also maybe leads into that. The other bit of news that we're covering, I'm going to just share the article here.
Oh yeah,
which is an article on DualShockers. President says reboots. And when I saw this, I thought, what? Who, Biden? President says reboots of classic Sega games could be coming, especially Sonic. Is Biden a Sonic fan? So,
President in Sonic Adventure 2.
Oh my gosh. Oh, awesome.
So apparently, the president and chief operations officer of Sega said that they should be, or they are looking into rebooting some games and maybe re-releasing them, remaking them. So, and there is a hint at something Sonic related, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this, guys?
Heroes, was it? I read someone took a still from that Sonic Central show. I think it was like Tails' YouTube or Tails Tube or something. And that was like what they were expecting. And then this sort of confirms perhaps that's the Sonic title that they're thinking of, like Heroes, potentially.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Oh,
yeah. Is there a game you guys would like to see a remake of or something? Because they talk a lot about Sonic Frontiers, Sonic Superstars, as the Sonic movie, the Sonic 2 movie as being very successful. So they're very happy with the direction Sonic is heading right now. There's really
it's always going to be an adventure for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes.
I think there've been lots of talks officially about at least the want of wanting to remake Sonic Adventure recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know. Like maybe that's something they could go with. What I'm unsure about is like they're talking about reboots, but haven't they like Sonic Boom? Wouldn't you count that as a reboot? Like it wasn't connected to anything. Like it was its own thing.
More like a spin-off, I think.
Spin-off. Yeah. I guess there's a difference there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know what I think it's mentioned in the article. They mention, by the way, you have some wonderful ads here, some wonderful Portuguese ads on this browser window. So they mention Samba de Amigo. Someone asked about the newest Samba de Migo game, Party Central, which will release in August. And so while the interviewer referred to Party Central as a reboot of the original Samba de Migo, Sugino corrected him, saying it's not a reboot in my mind, but a new game in the series. Okay.
Interesting.
I'm not
What's
sure
his timeline like in his head?
I don't know.
Like how long does it have to be between releases for it to be considered a reboot or the next game in the series?
I think it's more of like what the game does itself, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So a reboot, is that like, Sonic the Hedgehog when they rebranded it and, it was Sonic 06? That was like a reboot.
Could be possible.
Whereas like Sonic Adventure 2, if that had been like 15 years later, or Shenmue 3, for example, isn't a reboot, it's just the next game in the series. Maybe. Even though it's, it's been that long apart from releases.
Yeah, maybe.
I get what you're saying. I was going to say, what do you guys think would be a suitable reboot then, based on that article?
I mean, reboot, I think, is a strong word. I don't think Sonic needs a reboot. Unless you count like scrapping the whole thing in terms of gameplay and just start from scratch like they are doing with Sonic Frontiers in a way, right? They are laying the foundation for something new, for what we consider to be Sonic, 3D Sonic from now. So I think that's enough, at least for me.
Yeah.
Don't need to do anything that like this. We don't need to reboot the story or anything. So it's just in terms of gameplay or laying the foundation for the next few years of games. I think.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there.
Yeah.
Like reboot for what? Story, gameplay, those could be rebooted separately.
Yeah. So I don't think a story reboot is needed. The basic premise of Sonic games is always the same, right? They're fighting.
Yeah, it's a new story every time anyway that is not really connected with the last story. So it's it wouldn't be much of a difference.
So the article mentions that Sugino talked about Sonic Superstars, right? Citing it as a return to 2D action. And although it is a new game, I would like to implement reboot-like measures as well. I don't know what
that means.
I don't even know what this means.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. Reboot-like measures. I suppose it depends what he's actually meaning by reboot. Is it like what we've just discussed, or is it like the whole gameplay? Because the gameplay from the trailer looks like you'd expect a 2D Sonic game to look. The only difference is you can play it as like a party of 4. Yeah. I know they've added some additional skills, like that water thing and whatnot, but are those enough to be considered a reboot? Or is it just, I don't know.
I have no idea.
Depends what he means by that word.
Yeah. I guess we'll have to wait to find out, right?
I mean, if I were to try to think about what they mean, I guess you could count the Sonic Frontiers as having reboot-like elements, because they rethought the gameplay. So it's not like a full reboot, because it's still similar, but there are still reboot-like elements, because it's still rethinking a lot of things. So I don't know, maybe it's that. Maybe what they are referring to in Superstars is the kind of power-ups that you get. I don't know. That's the only way I can make sense of it.
I was trying something here, but it didn't work. So I can actually add comments to the screen here. But I'm with you.
Oh, sorry, I missed it.
No, it's okay. I was trying to add Jamie's, but I need to.
I
work
can
on this
see that.
first before I can do it. So he said, I think Frontiers could be the start of a soft reboot. Could be that. It could be the return to 2D, maybe it's what they think all 2D Sonic games will be from now on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Forget Mania. That's the end of a cycle. Forget classic Sonic in 3D games. So 2D Sonic is going to be this from now on. Maybe that's what they mean by reboot-like measures. I don't know.
Yeah, so maybe we're just using the word reboot in a different way. Maybe what they mean is like persistent changes.
Yeah.
Basically.
Maybe it's like more like what Nintendo did with the new Super Mario Brothers series, right? They released the new Super Mario Brothers games were like 2D, and then there were other games in this series that were 3D, and they released like two or three games perhaps on Wii U. We released one on Switch. So that's like the 2D side-scrolling game with multiplayer elements, and then the 3D games are like Mario, what's it called? Odyssey, Super Mario Odyssey. that's the one.
Yeah.
So probably what they mean by reboot, like 2D is now this, 3D is Frontiers, and we'll take it from here. Maybe.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I guess overall,
it makes sense.
Overall, it's a bit of a strange headline for an article, isn't it? When you think about like Sonic games, to most people, they'll think, "Oh, what they on about reboot? There's a Sonic game every year." So it's not like a series that actually needs a reboot as such. So yeah, it's probably just strange wording.
Maybe. Lost in translation, perhaps. Could be.
Maybe so.
Yeah. Hayato 3D says on the Radio Sega Discord, says Sonic Adventure remake or reboot would be interesting, but would be curious what direction it would take. Not sure it needs to happen, but could open it up to more people, of course. Yeah.
I'd like to see it. Sonic Adventure remake. I don't know if they'd go for the original style of the graphics, but like better. Or would it be more like photorealistic? You imagine like Station Square being this like skyscraper, like the middle of Tokyo, looking like proper, glass and everything looks hyper realistic. That could be pretty cool.
Amazing water effects on Chaos. Ooh.
Yeah. Or imagine like Speed Highway if it was like hyper realistic.
The glass breaking when you're like down that slope.
So say
on the
like
building.
Sonic the movie, how it's like real life environment, but Sonic the character inside of it.
Yeah.
Maybe they could go for something like that for the remake.
Could be.
Or, like the introduction to Sonic Adventure, that is a bit more hyper realistic, isn't it? Where Chaos comes out the side of the building and the glass shatters everywhere, and it's like
that was epic.
That's what I'm thinking.
That was
so epic. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay.
I'm thinking they can definitely. I don't remember where I talked about this before, but definitely merge Sonic Adventure with the Sonic Frontiers form. Because in Sonic Adventure, you did have this kind of like open world kind of thing, like where you were not in an action stage. And so like maybe like the Sonic Frontiers part like could be merged with that kind of thinking. And so then you find stages through that. And then do like a longer action stage like you do in Adventures. Like, really cool. Do you see what I mean? I definitely think you can merge the two in a good way.
Definitely.
If you do a remake.
Yeah.
I think you said that actually, Lime, because we were talking about how we'd like to see an open world Sonic Adventure 3 or whatever, and then you're saying, well, Sonic Frontiers or no, I think you actually said like the first Sonic Adventure is kind of like Sonic Frontiers. You've got like this open world hub, and then you find the stages, and then you begin the stage. It's kind of already there, isn't it? In form.
Indeed. I mean, there are similarities already, and I kind of get the feeling that they are testing out that idea a little bit. It's just like they start with Sonic Frontiers just to
probably
see the reactions and see if that's the way they want to go.
Yeah, definitely. Says the man with the Sonic mug. Okay, so that's it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I would love to see to be honest, more than Sega, I would love to see other Sega IPs being remade or re-released or rebooted. I think,
there are others as Sega IPs than Sonic?
Yes, there are other Sega IPs.
Oh my gosh.
Sega is more than just Sonic, wouldn't you know? I guess...
And then Matt said Shenmue again.
Yes, and I'm guessing. I don't know if we need a Shenmue remake, but I would definitely be up for it. Definitely.
I'd be up for it. Yeah. I think we need Shenmue 4 first.
Oh yeah.
I've only seen playthroughs of it, but it looks very fun, and it definitely looks and feels like a game that could benefit from remaster at least.
Yeah, definitely. And so Jamie was saying, could they do a full-on merge from the open zone into action stage to make it feel like one continuous world without a break from a loading zone? Yeah.
Interesting.
Could be.
So, yeah, because if you think about Sonic Adventure 1, they kind of look like they're going to lead to the stage, but then obviously Sonic just runs into the wall and then the loading screen appears. So if they could do it like that, that would be pretty cool. So you'd open up the speed highway, garage door or whatever and go into the thing, and then you're literally on the road instantly. That'd be pretty cool. Good idea.
Yep, definitely.
I mean, when it comes to doing that, like the technical part of it, like the way they solved that experience, like getting a continuous experience and no loading screens, is like these, like what do you call them, like crawl spaces,
Yeah,
like where you
I know
go
what you
into
mean.
this like a little cramped space, where you have to move slowly to give the next part time to load.
Yeah.
I guess like if they need to, they could actually
They could be
add
smart.
something like that.
If they
Technically,
needed to.
though, on the PS5 has got like that sort of thing going on all the time, right? Because there was that example of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart thing where they can go straight, through the rifts and end up at a different part of the stage.
Right.
So
I think that the way
maybe these days
they marketed PS5 made me think that maybe those kinds of elements aren't really needed anymore because it's so fast already. So they don't need to add that. So that's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, the technology is here, is available.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have the technology. Hayato 3D says, let's get on Radio Sega. Let's get a Burning Rangers remake going. In regards to other Sega IPs, also Snatcher. Isn't Snatcher a Konami IP? I think it is.
I believe
right?
so, yeah.
It's like was a
Hideo Kojima?
Hideo
wasn't it?
Kojima, yeah. So probably Konami, but yeah. I've
Burning
seen
Rangers,
I've seen
100%.
people actually ask for a Snatcher quite a bit. Yeah, but Burning Rangers definitely needs any like Saturn game needs a remake or a re-release somehow.
Bit of a segue for you there if you want to.
Which leads us into something that I don't have ready for some reason because I forgot to add this URL here, but let's fix it very quickly. Okay, so apparently Sega Saturn is difficult to turn into a mini console, says Sega Boss. So this is more specific. Sega Boss, not President. So it's not Sleepy Joe like Resident SD is saying. This is Sega Boss. So
Is this
it's
above
Sugino again.
Oh, it does say the present again, actually.
Yes, it's Sugino again.
It's probably from the same interview.
Probably. It's the Famitsu interview that was mentioned in the other article. So, yeah. So he
Is
says...
he surprised, by the way? He says it's surprisingly high performance, as though he's surprised.
Yeah, the Sega Saturn is surprisingly high performance, so the difficulty of miniaturization is also high.
I raged when I read that. We had a discussion about that before. I'm like, oh come on! You make it sound like our console is too good, too powerful to make a miniature version of it. I'm like, you do realize that the Nintendo Switch is out with loads more power and even smaller. You could. If only power was a problem here, that's not the issue. It's not the issue.
Maybe
Like,
it's more powerful than
don't
the
make it
Switch, though.
sound
That's
like
why it was
that.
a surprise.
It is more powerful than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it's so surprising, Lime.
Yeah, so the problem is definitely the emulation, as we previously discussed, right, guys? So it's still a very hard system to emulate. Even the best emulators, as I think it was you, James, that pointed out that it's not 100% perfect, right? So it depends on the game.
So say like Mega Drive these millions of emulators probably, and they're all of decent quality. You can chuck any ROM at it. You don't have to do anything specific. You can just put a load of game in it, it loads. But the Saturn, I imagine, is game dependent. So like, you've got to kind of emulate each game individually because of... This is just how I feel when they were designing these games for the Saturn, because it was such a complex console to develop for. They had to do like loads of little magic tricks, maybe with the shaders or effects to try and create 3D graphics from 2D sprites or whatever they were trying to do. I think there was a great video on YouTube I watched of the Sonic R rotating metallic head. How they managed to do that is insane on the Saturn, because the Saturn isn't capable of doing that as a graphic thing. It was like a trick that they managed to pull off. So I imagine these things like that an emulation type of format is going to struggle to reproduce accurately. So I think you'll probably find like that's the kind of thing. So like see-through textures, I'm thinking again Sonic R, like the last stage of Sonic R where the floor's quite transparent. Those kind of, I could imagine them booting that up into an emulator and there being like some sort of graphical glitches because it can't process whatever tricks they were doing to create those effects.
Yeah. And so even if it's M2 doing that, it's hard. Yes, Lime, sorry.
If they've said that, I would definitely buy it. Like I could so see that it could be difficult to make an emulator for like certain consoles. And if you could, it wouldn't be worth the money. Like that argument I would buy. For me, that reads differently. I just thought it was funny. Like it's so high performance that we can't make an emulator out of it. Come on.
It's too powerful.
And then they compare it to the PlayStation and Nintendo 64, and I'm like, yeah, they are good emulators out there for both those consoles.
Yeah, I was.
It's writing though.
Yeah, the phrasing is everything, right? So that's a problem, perhaps. I think I can do this now. Let's see. There we go. So we have a comment here by Resident SD. They could make a 300-pound Saturn Mini, but not a sub 100-pound one. So that's also a problem, right? So maybe it's not the case that they couldn't do it, and especially if you put someone like M2 at the helm of this thing, they're so talented. They would probably be able to, even if it's like a case-by-case emulation of having everything set up in a case-by-case, in a game-by-game basis. But could it be sold as like a mini console? Because a 300-pound console or $300 console is a Nintendo Switch, basically. It's
quite pricey.
Current gen system. So you can't sell this at the price point of a current gen system or even a last gen system.
The Astro City Minis, how much were they? They were like maybe close to 200, right?
Yeah, close to 200.
But that has got more of a tabletop format to it.
Yeah, it's like the format, the novelty of it as well, I think, is it can be justified.
I'd question how many games they'd do for it as well, if they are working on them case-by-case basis. Obviously, the Mega Drive Mini 2 had like 50 games or something crazy, didn't it? So could you see them aiming that high for Saturn, or are they just going to get like the best 20 games or something, which may, on paper, sound a bit disappointing, only 20 games? So they've got a lot of hard work, which could be what's proving so difficult.
Yeah, I think 20 would be a decent number of games, depending on the price point. I know that one thing is true, and for sure, if they sell it in Japan, people are going to go crazy.
Fly off the shelves.
Oh, of course.
And I think the thing with the Saturn is as well, it's so unique, and there's a lot of exclusive titles for the Saturn that are very hard for people to go out the way to play these days. Case in point, I've got this ready, but Panzer Dragoon Saga, if they can actually put that on a mini console, that's going to sell. I've seen a meme someone posted where they said we're releasing a Saturn Mini. It includes one game. It's like, Panzer Dragoon Saga, and people would still buy it if it just had one game on it, and it was that game.
Probably, yeah. Okay, so we'll see. We'll see what comes out of this a whole issue with the
got
Sega
it, Jamie.
Saturn Mini.
One thought here, like I might not know like how an emulation works, so like I might sound like very dumb now. But as I've thought of emulation, is that like you find like a software way to emulate like the original hardware, and so then you like once you have the like a game file, or for example like a ROM file or whatever, like you could just put it there and it's gonna work. Because it's emulating the hardware, and like it wouldn't be like you wouldn't need to do like a new thing for each game because you already have the emulation of the hardware. So like why are
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
because it's very common, right?
I get what you're saying.
When they release old games, they go like, oh yeah, here's this thing and here's this thing, but only these games. I'm like, why not just like make an emulator, release it, and then we have access to all of the games? Like, why do it on game basis in that case if that's what an emulator is?
First of all, money. Of course, they won't say, here's a machine that plays every ROM file that you can find on the internet. Please go crazy. They won't tell you that. They want to make money. First of all, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, they are selling these things anyway, right? So like it would be the difference between like putting all the games on the store and you can sell so much more as opposed to just a few games and only sell those. Like, wouldn't that be worth the money, like the extra effort to make like a whole full working emulation and not just a game by game basis?
Yeah, but
what I would love is a Sega console, like I'm saying, that is like a storefront and you can download, but they keep adding, you know, nothing ever leaves, not like the Nintendo eShop where games disappear or, you know, things
that's
like
what
that.
I'm
But
after.
It starts off, that would be really cool.
Yeah, you can do it legally and give Sega some money, right? That would be interesting. But I think we'll talk about that in a little bit when we get into our main topic, right? So, but just as an answer to Lime in terms of emulation, I'm not an expert either, far from it. But I think when you're trying to emulate a console or an other system, you're trying to make your computer or your machine do the same things that console would do in that situation. And that's, I think, the problem, because programmers and game developers had to be very creative with the Saturn to make games work and do what they wanted to. And sometimes you'd probably get unexpected results just by throwing a ROM into an emulator, because you have to tweak things.
You still have to do those things
specifically for that game, so that it works as it was intended by the devs. Not really a technical explanation, but the best that I can do.
Yeah, and SD gives like a similar thing here, that, you know, in an ideal world, that's how emulation would work, but like you still need to do. Like, as I understand it from what I'm reading here, like in some cases at least, you need to have specific fixes, kind of.
There we go.
Did the PlayStation Mini suffer from like a similar thing where they just chucked a load of games onto PlayStation emulator, and then when people actually ended up playing them, there was a lot of things wrong with some of the games? I never actually owned a PS Mini, but I remember hearing a lot of like negative feedback.
But like to add to that though, later I can bring it up like when we are going to talk about it later, but like an open standard for emulation.
This needs to be here. Nah, the PlayStation Mini suffered from being crap, says Resident SD.
Oh dear. Yeah.
And Resident SD wins comment of the evening. Yay! Congrats. Yeah. Okay. So I think we're running a little bit late. So let's just talk about one little thing. we all know that Sega is coming to Gamescom, so maybe we can discuss that in a future show, because Gamescom is just like a month away still, so we can maybe talk about that a little bit at another time. But very briefly, James, this is just sorry. No one saw
James,
anything. Yes, this is the perfect intro to the SkillJim Lounge. Forklift Racer. Forklift Racer.
You want me to talk about this a little bit?
Like it says, why is this in Portuguese? I don't know. Everything was in English before. But it's available on Steam, early access by Team Wulinshu. Would you like to tell us a little bit about this? What this is?
Right. Yeah, so this is the same. So Team Wulinshu, basically, they're working on the Dragon and Phoenix collection, which is potentially a Shenmue remake in the making, unofficial one, of course. But Forklift Racer is something that they've kind of like has done as a little bit of a side project coming from some of the stuff that they're working on in the Dragon and Phoenix collection. So obviously they're going to remake the forklift aspect of Shenmue in that game. So I'm assuming like this is kind of the early workings of that, but they've just turned it into a bit of an online multiplayer-based racing game, which is really cool. You can see the footage here on screen. Basically, you connect two friends online and race them in a forklift. This current track is obviously the one that's in Shenmue, which is
just
cool.
Looking
it's
at
like
the track,
recreation.
Man. Amazing.
So cool, yeah. So the early access version, it's still in development, so it's not perfect by any means, but there's a few tracks there to get started with. There's like that track that you've just seen, the one that we all know and love. Then there's like an indoor warehouse one that's quite cool, like a little short mini track. And then there's mirrored versions of each as well. The soundtrack's fantastic, by the way, if you haven't heard the soundtrack yet. It's very Sega arcade sounding, really cool. It's just going to be an ongoing project, and basically early access, it's free. You just go on Steam, just type in Forklift Racer, download it, try it out with your friends, and just leave some feedback for the developers. I think that's what they're looking for, really. They're trying to gauge like where any bugs are, what they can improve, whilst they continue to work on the game and, add more tracks and more features and stuff to it. But it works fairly decently at the moment. It's only going to get better, like I say. So don't go in with like crazy expectations. But it is a fun little game just to pass a couple of hours with your friends. Definitely recommended.
Definitely.
Give it a go.
I'm a bit disappointed because it was supposed to support the Steam Deck, and
and it doesn't.
It crashed. So I tried to boot it up on the Steam Deck, but
I'll have to let them know. I've got it works with controllers. If you plug your controller in, you can play all the buttons of the Shenmue forklift. You can raise and lower the forklift. There's power-ups around the track.
Yes.
Ones that give you boost, one that like slow you down, and there's also one that you can blame me for coming up with, but I said like it'd be pretty cool if there was like bombs on the track. So as you drive over it, you don't realise that it's a bomb. It looks like a regular power-up, and then you go flying.
How dare you?
Like it's. Can you sabotage each other by lifting each other up?
I'm guessing you can. I mean, I've never got close to someone enough to try it, but if you read, according to Matt there in the chat, you can.
Yes, apparently.
There's definitely more physics with the forklifts than Shenmue. Like Shenmue is like you're stuck to the ground, aren't you? You can never fall over. If you bump into a wall, you sort of bounce back. But in this, it's like it's got all the physics, trying to recreate an actual forklift simulator.
Yeah. Okay,
like
it looks like or it sounds like a good idea, and it looks interesting, at least.
Looks fun, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're
welcome,
a Shenmue
by the way,
fan,
Matt.
Sorry.
The chat.
Yeah. Hello, Matt. Yes. So Shenmue Dojo, welcome. Thank you for joining us. So that's the best segue possible, since we have Matt on the chat for our next topic. So our main topic, actually. So we were supposed to be brief, guys. What happened? Did we talk a lot?
I don't know.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
That's unheard of.
It's quite enjoyable, though, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you.
Talking on a
really enjoyed this.
podcast? Who would have? Oh, gosh.
What an idea.
What am I thinking?
What an idea. So our main topic, guys, and it says so on the title of the episode, preservation of Sega games. So what's the context for this? You can actually go to thought I played something. No, didn't play any sound. So if you're on Twitch, you can see the study that the Video Game History Foundation published on the game availability, or the availability of games, right? So the game availability study explained, they say. So they explain here why they did this study and how they went into this. This is an interesting read. We're not going to talk about everything here. You can, do that on your own time and just look at what the factors were, like the way they approached this and how they did the research and everything. But the main thing here is, the main takeaway is that like around 90% or something of games released before 2010 are not available, in current systems, available commercially, available easily, readily anymore, which is a bummer, especially if we're looking at it from a preservation of games, a video games point of view. And so what I want to talk about to you guys about is, are there any solutions? Is this a big problem or not? What do you guys think? Thinking of this and looking at this from a Sega point of view as well, how affected are we as Sega fans by this problem, and what can we do, or what can anyone do about this? But first of all, why does this happen to games and not other forms of media? Right? So you have, they've found ways of preserving music, even with complicated rights. They end up on streaming services, or physically released somewhere, re-released. Movies, the same thing, films.
Yeah.
Why not video games?
I think the issue you've got is those type of media are all standardized, aren't they? Books printed on paper, CDs, discs, music technically, it's all in formats like an MP3 file or something. Whereas video games, they're all over the shop, aren't they? You've got consoles that need to play specific things. Games only work on those specific consoles, and the availability of everything is much more trickier. Like you say, music, very easy to find anyone's music in a sense, because it's just widely available like that. And I know that's something that has been preserved in a sense. Someone's gone out of the way to collect all this music and put it on Spotify, so it is readily available for everyone to listen to. And we kind of need that to happen for video games, someone to collect all of the video games somehow and make it widely available for everyone, which is probably like what we were discussing before, like Lime's suggestion, where you've got this big system where you can pick and choose any game that you want to and pay for it. Why does it need to be stuck on a disc? Why does it need to be stuck on a service on a console from 50 years ago? Why could they not just have had the hindsight to create a game that you can go to a shop and buy, and then a version that's going to be saved and archived for a collection for the future? Maybe time is a factor these days. It's hard to go back in time now. They've already said that there's a lot of games that have literally just been lost to the sands of time at this point. Yeah. And it's been the community who has been going out of the way to collectively collect video games and preserve them. And as bad as it is in a sense to emulate and illegally download these games and stuff, without that you wouldn't be able to play anything right now of that 90% that you mentioned there, Casey.
Yeah.
So the fact that there is such a huge percentage, and it's a fascinating study. I would recommend everyone go out there and read it and just sort of understand the situation, because I knew it was bad, but really when you hear it in numbers like that, you don't realise it is that bad. And then you start thinking back to your like my childhood, all of the Mega Drive games, I'm only able to play them because I've got them, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
If I haven't got them, I'd have to go on eBay and fork out money. Panzer Dragoon Saga, you know, I was lucky enough to pay a fraction of the price for that it is these days. You know, people that want to play Panzer Dragoon Saga now have got no way of playing it, which is crazy, really, for such a fantastic 10 out of 10 masterpiece. That, you know, and these games are just going to get more and more like that. You're going to get people
legally, at least, right? Legally,
yeah. Yes. And that's the thing.
Even
that is
even
the
if
caveat.
you want to do it legally, you can still do what you just said. But no one from the original team of developers or the publisher, no one is getting anything from that, any money out of it. Only scalpers are getting money out of it, right? Which kind of defeats the point of, putting up, making emulation illegal or criticizing people because if they don't have any other way to play the games, they resort to piracy. No one's making any money out of the games now. So if the developers aren't willing or able to re-release them, maybe that's the only way, right? I don't know.
Yeah. Indeed.
It's kind of a shame that, as you were saying, if you bought these games before, you probably bought them at a reasonable price, but now...
Yeah, nowadays you can't. See, in theory...
That should be illegal.
In theory, every video game ever made is potentially in this category. You know, even though these 13% that is readily available now, at some point it's not going to be. So every game is under threat in a sense. All these games I've got on my shelf here, these PS4 games, they're preserved in a sense, but only for me. So, you know, these are my games. If I can't just hand this over to Lime as easy as, you know, obviously I could go round a friend's house and hand a friend, but anyone that wants to play this game who lives across the other side of the globe, unless they pay, you know, 500 quid for Panzer Dragoon Saga or whatever off me, they're not going to get my copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga.
Yeah. Well, I'll hand it over to you, Lime, in a second. Just wanted to mention something very, very briefly, because sometimes we don't really understand the dimension of this problem. So it's one of the examples they give here is the original version of Yakuza, right?
Yeah.
Which it was released in 2005. Then we have the remake available, for example, for now on PS5, whatever the PS5 Game Pass equivalent is called now. We have it on Game Pass as well. It's available to buy digitally on Steam as well. But that's Yakuza Kiwami. That's the remake, the remastered version and remade version. It is extremely faithful, but it's a remake. It's a new game. So the original Yakuza is no longer in print. It's not that old. It's from 2005. And it's a game that many people now would probably like to play because there are so many new Yakuza fans out there. And so they're not able to get it to play it legally on current gen systems anymore. So it's very close to home, I think, this problem.
It's kind of like they've sort of rewrote history.
Kind of.
This is Yakuza now.
Yeah.
This is the first Yakuza, yeah.
Exactly. Lime, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about like it doesn't happen to the film industry, music industry. I do agree that at least my experience is that it's less. But I do still feel like it is there. I can't tell you how many times that I've wanted to watch a movie or a series that on a streaming service that is out, but just not in my country. So I want to give them my money. They are not accepting my money. And so I try to like do things to pretend that I'm in a country that it is available. And so I'm trying to bypass these things so that I can give them my money. They still find ways to refuse that. I want to give you the money. Why aren't you accepting my money?
Why aren't you accepting my VPN?
I'm sure there are reasons for that, but as a consumer, it's not understandable. Why aren't you accepting this? What you are doing is then pushing me to like, or at least you are motivating me to find other ways to get this what I want. And so it's in the interest of the companies as well to make these games available. Otherwise, you are going to motivate people into what you don't want. And you are like, companies need to realize this. They are a part of pushing people into things that they don't want. And I'm talking about piracy. They are pushing people to that because it is the only way. Like even this study also brings up that for some people, piracy is the only option. So like, how dare the companies complain about a problem that they are a part of cultivating? That's something that annoys me. You are pushing them in that direction by taking away games, refusing to have it available for people. You are not even selling the game, and then they go around like, oh, hey, oh, no, we are losing money because you're pirating. You're not even selling the game. You're not losing any money here. When it comes to those, what you are losing is the money that you would get. Like after you've pushed them into piracy, they would go like, oh, hey, this game I could buy, but now I'm already in the system. I might as well pirate it, even if that game is available. You are losing money because you aren't making these games available. So stop making it about what it's not about. Like make it available so that people can buy the game.
I like the expression, you're already in the system. I'm already in the system.
That's what it is. Like once you're in there, like why would you leave? And it's like, if it is very difficult to motivate yourself morally to not go into to piracy if your option is secondhand, because if your option is secondhand, the company's not going to get your money anyway. So you're not in any like moral obligation to do that instead. Mm-hmm. You might as well go the easy way and just get it. So make your games available and be a part of not cultivating what you are speaking so badly about, piracy. I'm talking to the companies now.
Yes.
It annoys me.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, it's not that easy from a consumer or gamer point of view. It should be easy, right, to make these games available again.
I'm talking about from a consumer point of view, definitely. Yeah,
we can. I think we can all agree that there are probably legal issues involved, like licensing involved, that sometimes for at least for some games make it hard for companies to, right? But that's not the case for all of them. That can be an excuse for all games not being re-released or being made available, right? That said, what do you guys think should be or could be the solution here? So we've talked about making them available. I thought about a platform that I've talked about in the past, which is now called jam.gg. This is unfortunately closing next week, like a week from now or something. But I just got an email today about this. But this was an interesting project. So this was a platform that allowed you, and still does for a week at least, to bring your own ROMs and play them multiplayer with your friends. From using just a web browser. You have an account, you bring your own ROMs. There are games that are built into this as well, but you can bring your own ROMs for, I think, most systems to like PS1 or something like that. You can like have a video chat, you can play multiplayer. So it's an example. I don't know how they could get away with this. They're closing, but they're not. The company is not closing. They're doing this in a different way. I think they're working closely with companies and doing this like more of a social gaming experience from now on. I don't know if they got a letter from Nintendo saying, "Look, guys,
shut down,
shut that down." Okay, but legally, I think. Or technically, they don't provide ROMs. They just have a platform that actually is capable of reproducing and playing these games. But should this be the way to go? Something like this, but like official from, in our case, SEGA?
I think that's a good idea, that format. But what you'd need is every company that's ever produced a game all to band together and allow their games to be on one service. So there is that idea, and I think it's in the study where they compare like your books and your CDs and your films and stuff, that they're readily available in libraries. So obviously the way the world works, somehow we've put a library virtually in every city and they're full of books, CDs, DVDs. It's just like this. As far as I'm aware, it's a worldwide thing. It's just happened. I don't know when it happened overnight, but these libraries just appeared full of books. You can go in, you can take a book home, you can read it, you can return it. And to have that kind of a scenario for video games, like I've mentioned before, is difficult in the current state because you've got the consoles, so you can't go to a library, take out an Apple Pippin or whatever it's called, and play a game, because chances are you're not going to have one in Stoke-on-Trent. You're not going to have an Apple Pippin in another city. There's probably only about 5 to go around the whole world still available. So it needs to be a universal sort of format. You need all the games to be able to be played in the same style. Like I say, universally. You can't have them console-based, because consoles are going to break. Things are going to go wrong with the Sega Saturn. Things are already going wrong with Sega Saturns. The games, like Jamie mentioned in the chat, prone to disc rot. Especially those old ones now. I'm not sure about Blu-rays. I feel like they've got like an extra layer of protection, but like your old CD-based games, eventually they're going to die. So it needs to be, especially with PCs and online, they need to be files hosted online, and then we can all save them. Do you know what I mean? They're not going to get lost like ROMs. ROMs are on multiple servers, I'm sure. There's no chance of them getting lost unless the whole internet just suddenly turns off overnight.
Indeed.
So it needs to be that kind of format.
That's the only kind of joint effort that's being made to preserve video games at this point, which is sad.
Yeah. Then if you've got a library idea,
the pirates are the ones working to preserve the games.
Exactly. And to be honest, libraries, if they were to take on board some of these games, I'm sure they'd have to take in these pirated ROMs, because there's no other means of getting those games anymore. Like the source code for Panzer Dragoon is lost, apparently. I mean, even though, I don't know if you guys saw that GDC a few years ago, he said that it may have been found or something, he was teasing. But the word on the street is the source code for Panzer Dragoon Saga has been lost. So if an official means of that game being playable isn't going to happen, so it needs to be from someone's hacked ROM file or whatever in an emulator format, and then you can play it on jam.com.
You imagine Sega going to to one of these ROM sites, downloading Panzer Dragoon Saga so they can re-release it on Switch or something.
Just put it on the Saturn Mini.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, I like if the article brings that up as well, like using libraries, and I would add what SkillJim just added as well, like make people also like not just as it is much online now. You don't really own the copy that you have, kinda. Because they could, like the store could be, online store could be shut down. Some people might not have like the internet speed needed. Like there are issues with having like a digital only version, but if you can at least get the file, so that you could save the file yourself. That's preservation, because then you're not dependent anymore on that online thing being online. Like servers might shut down or whatever. So I would definitely also go with library solution where you can download the file so that you can save the file for yourself so that you have it. It's not going, then it's really not going anywhere. That's kind of what I do. Like, that's kind of what I think needs to happen. Like, either if it's distributed digitally or physically, like if you have a way to save it yourself, then I would definitely say it's preserved, because then you're not dependent on.
Yeah.
Thinking about that kind of a style.
Physical breaking down or whatever. Yeah.
So thinking of that style then, where you could just go on libraryvideogames.com, click Shenmue's there, $2.99, for example. You own that game now from the library. It's just
at least.
Okay.
What are you saying? Where is this page? Can I go there now?
25 at least.
But kind of like what Steam, if you think of how Steam is, you got your games there, but maybe, that's like an ongoing thing, whereas this is like a library, so they're never leaving. Once a game's there, it's that price. So that's why I said $2.99, because it's, it doesn't need to be on sale. They don't need to advertise it. It's there. So they don't have to worry about in the future then remaking a game or remastering a game, because the game's there. And unless they want to do a newer version of it to modernize it for some specific reason, like a Shenmue remake, then okay, that's great. But the problem we've got at the moment is, with the current services, once Steam shuts down or PlayStation moves on to the PS6 and the library games doesn't follow with it, Shenmue's stuck on PS4. And then once it gets to a certain age, like we're seeing with like the Nintendo eShop they shut whatever that bit down the other week or whatever, all of the games that were available suddenly unavailable.
Yeah.
PT, you can't get any more. So there needs to be a system where if a game has been released, it's there for life. And I understand like the licensing thing. The licensing thing carries a load of issues, but I can't get it in my head really why it should cause so many issues licensing. So say like the Outrun arcade game that was on the 360, amazing, we all want it, you can't get it anymore. It was up there for like 3 years or whatever it was, because the Ferrari license ran out. Like, I don't think they should strike deals with companies like that where they've only got it for a certain amount of time. Why not? The game is the game now as it was then. It doesn't. If I've downloaded Outrun, it's on my Xbox. If I power on my Xbox, I can play Outrun. No one else can because they didn't buy it at the time.
It shouldn't be a license for Outrun on the Xbox 360 or anything.
It should be the game.
It should be Outrun, right?
Yeah.
This game, whenever we decide to re-release this game, as long as it's the same game, right? If we remake the game or add content to it, okay. That's a fair point. You should strike a new license. But if it's the same game, wherever the platform is, the license should work, right? Should be the same. The deal should stand. So
indeed.
That's something
I love that
they
you are
need to think about going forward, I think. Yes, I'm sorry.
I love that you are both going there, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go there, and I'm gonna like try to argue for this, but I didn't even need to. Like that's definitely the case. Like they made an agreement with like whatever character or music that they wanted to put on a physical thing, like a cartridge or a disc, and like that's gonna be there a long time. Like even after your deal has, well, what was it called? Stopped. So like it's still out there. You're not gonna control that. So like it's not about like the physical anymore. Like it shouldn't really be about the physical. Like it's you made the license for that game. So like what's the difference really between like picking up that cartridge with the game and playing it with that music or with that character or whatever, and just like putting it online and keep selling it? Like I don't really understand why that's an issue.
The biggest takeaway here is don't license things. Just do Ferrera
with your own ideas,
like a Ferrera car from now on in Outrun. A Ferrera.
Yeah.
Right? So,
another
with
point.
A horse, like doing like a hopscotch or something.
Yeah, like bootleg stuff. You know, when you go to a market and they've got like Gucci, but it's missing a C.
Yeah, exactly. So
like related there, like another point that I want to make there. Like, I mean, sure, you have entered into an agreement with licensing. Okay, fine. You have done that. Like sometimes I guess like you might need to pull a game for different reasons. Like maybe something happened that just, oh no, yeah, we can't have this game here anymore. But like those are like really edge cases here. People have been pulling, like companies have been pulling games just because like, oh yeah, this like are for arbitrary reasons. Like this isn't up to our standards anymore. Then I mean, fine, if you want to do that, then you do that. I can understand that companies also, like for example, consoles that have like a certain way of controlling the game. You want the consumers to experience that game in that way. You want them to experience like the quality, and fine, I can kind of understand that. So like in order to make like the whole library thing work, like let's say that you still actually, like if you have this library with that the games can't leave, but the people are still like paying a little amount for it. There is one change that we can make to basically force or at least heavily motivate these companies to want to put their games on there. Like what if, because we as consumers, we have had to get used to the idea that we don't really own the copies of our games for a while. What if the companies need to go through a similar process? Maybe you can't just pull a game for arbitrary reasons. It's out in the public now. And
if you get a book from a library, you don't own the book, do you?
Yeah. So what if that's the case? Like what if
forcing companies
if you're not even selling a game anymore, then it's free and accessible for everyone. Like you're not making any money anyway. Why just sit on it and not have people use it? Like there's no reason for that seemingly for consumers. So once you stop selling a game, or once you stop
like after a certain
producing
number
the consoles,
of years, perhaps, right?
Sorry?
Like maybe make it so it's like after a certain number of years. Like if after like, I don't know, maybe 5 years, you don't do anything with the game, it's no longer yours to keep, perhaps.
Yeah.
It should be
like
made
it's
available.
the public's. Like
yeah.
I think I think there is, at least when it comes to music, there is a similar law, but that is like 70 years and then it's public domain.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to games, like maybe like they can still own their IP, they can still own the game, but if you stop selling it, you don't really have the right to say that, oh no, you can't have this anymore. So it's gonna have to be accessible for everyone. And so if we then have a library for that, then you either have the choice, like, oh, you just give it out for free, because we have this amendment now that if you're not selling it, you need to give it out to the public now, because you don't you've released it. So yeah, it's out.
Yeah.
So like they either have the choice to do that or put it on a library where they still can get some kind of revenue from it.
Yeah.
That's
makes sense.
I guess kind of out there, but that's what I would kind of like to see. Like, I don't, like, you're not selling the game. Like, you should come on. Stop just sitting on it.
Greedy.
Like, it should be like free and accessible for everyone. Alternatively, put it here with the library so that we can preserve it. And then if you do that, you can still get some revenue from it. So there's a motivation there.
Don't know if it's the best solution, but my idea with the library are like games with $2.99. If every game is just set at $2.99, just a standardized price, but whoever the company was behind that game, they get the share. So if the company's incentive there, so say with Sega, for example, they've got 1,000 games, just for example, across all the platforms. If they released all 1,000 to the library, each game $2.99, then all of that money that people are picking and choosing, and they're there for life, they're never going to leave the service because it's a library, all of that gets pulled into a pot, and they get consistent revenue from every single game that they've ever created then in existence. There's none of this like where they've stopped making money on a game. They can still release, like you said, Casey, if it's a 5-year thing, they can release a brand new game, publicly Sonic Frontiers 2, 50 quid, and then 5 years time, they're not selling the game, it's not available on the digital storefront anymore, but now it's available on the library storefront. So if you want 5 years with a game, you buy it there and then day one. If you don't, you can pick it up in the library, and then it just allows people to then experience all the different types of games that they want to go. They can delve all the way back to the ZX Spectrum, where another platform where it's like, how do I play a ZX Spectrum game these days? You can't, can you? Unless there are compilations or something like that, and that's another topic, I suppose. Compilation discs and these like Atari 40 or whatever.
Exactly.
They're cool compilations. But if the companies have got together originally early on, instead of having this console war, if everyone was friendly and combined all their efforts in this gaming platform and then provided, here you go, library, here's a copy of our game, and we're releasing this. In 5 years' time, you can pop that game up on the library platform if you want, and that's absolutely fine with us.
I think that should be mandatory in terms of preservation, right? Whether they sell it or not, or make it available for people to download or not. Because I think one of the problems, and I asked why we lose so many games when we don't lose as many songs or films or books. I think games are still regarded as less than other forms of art or culture, right? Like still kids' toys, perhaps, maybe, right?
The general public,
yeah, it's not really something that matters as much. So we as gamers, as people who have been playing games for a long time and love the medium, we think of games as something more than the general public does, and so we are concerned about 10, 20, 30 years from now, people not being able to play the games that we love today. But generally speaking, I don't think people care as much about games as we do. So obviously, lawmakers don't either. And unless someone with power or influence, can somehow bring this discussion to the general public and make people understand that it's important to think about games and preserve them, I think we'll always have this problem going forward. And obviously, if game companies don't somehow peacefully make some sort of universal deal that contributes to preserving games. I wanted to mention briefly Hayato 3D's comment on the Discord chat. He says, I feel like video game preservation is super important, even more so nowadays. I'm doing what I can to get more involved in it myself to support it as the years go on. Digital archaeology. Yes. Can you imagine where things could be in 20 plus years from now as the games and systems continue to age and rot and the prices just keep going up and up? I think it's a really important effort to share it with future generations and for our own nostalgia, of course. And then they say a digital video game library where you can rent games universally and send the rental money to the appropriate owners would be quite the thing. I have a question though. As much as I think a game library should be a thing, I have a problem with this. How would you play the games? Because it
would have to be cloud-based, wouldn't it, these days?
Okay.
Right.
You'd have to be able to play them on whatever system you own now, right? And that poses another problem.
Either your PC, I guess, or perhaps they could even strike a deal where they produce these library systems that you take home, I don't know, plug it into a TV. And, at the end of the day, it probably would have to be a cloud-based system and these days, because, like I say, you're not going to be able to go to a physical library and pick up a classic game, because the chances of them actually owning that game and then the hardware, just lots of hurdles and problems involved in that.
Would have to be some sort of server-based or cloud-based, right?
And like Matt says there, it's obviously the company running it, but if the company is the library, I mean, it's worked for those other medias where, books and stuff, that there's an unwritten rule somehow. If you release a book, it can go in the library.
The price of each game you rent goes to support the server costs and whatnot, right? And the big share goes to the companies that develop the game or publish the game, the right owners, right? But then
that's why I was putting a price on the games, because I feel like there needs to be an incentive, especially now, to band together to make this a thing, because a lot of companies are just cracking on. They're only thinking about the future. It's like these people that are composing the study, they're actually thinking about what it will take to make people aware that there's 90% of the games that you can't play. So I think there needs to be some sort of an incentive somehow. But yeah, like Matt says, they are shutting down libraries. But I mean, the library isn't a business model, is it?
That's what I'm thinking is the problem as well.
It's just a way of library is a way of speaking, right? So it's a matter of speaking. We can call them libraries, but not be the actual libraries we use for books. Some sort of physical space we can go to or access online.
Yeah,
perhaps.
Indeed. I think video games would have to be online.
Sorry, Lime, I interrupted you again.
I think that is the problem. There's just no incentive. That's what we always hear, right? It's cost. They talk about those kind of things. The study talks about what one solution being creating an open standard for emulation. I have no idea what that would mean, but I'm still grasping on to that. Being some kind of idea here that they could create a standard for an emulation, maybe for a specific console, and then they would use that for an emulation. They can put that on the library as well, along with the ROMs or whatever, and then you download it and you play it. I see no way how that would not be technically doable if they are incentivized enough. For example, by adding a thing if you stop selling a game, it's accessible and free to everyone. So you need to find solutions here. if you want to keep getting money for the game. Like, you still own the IP, still own the game, but there's the incentive. I figure.
Yeah, that's. I think we're asking for a lot, though, right?
We're asking for a lot, and one. You know, it's going to be a concerted effort.
It has to be.
Like Matt's saying with the investment side of things, it is a big hurdle there, because obviously the government are already in trouble. You know, certain countries have got their own financial debt, so they're probably not in their best interest to be chucking money towards a library that houses a selection of video games, you know. And like Matt was saying, like, the libraries are shutting down all the time, unfortunately, because they can't be maintained financially. So that's going to be an issue. But then in this study, it even says how the video game industry is like a multi-billion-dollar industry. You know, it's one of the biggest. You know, I don't know if it actually references that, but is it above every other type of media at the moment, because it's, you know, it's absolutely booming. So there's money somewhere. Obviously these companies are keeping it to themselves, but if there was a way to sort of like say, you know, 10% of all earnings for the next 10 years from everyone is put into a pot to create this library archive that's going to house all the games for the rest of eternity, whatever, you know. And the incentive there is that they're going to be readily available all the time. And if you do add a little bit of monetary value to them, like not like a library where you rent something for free, you can have up to 10 items and then you've got to take them back. In this scenario that I was saying was like a $2.99 thing for every game, that is the incentive for the companies then to do this, because even though they're sharing some of the profits for the next 10 years or whatever to create this thing, from then on out, it is a financially viable thing then, because every game that they produce potentially is going to add revenue on, you know.
They have to
if you get what I'm saying,
they get something in return for this investment, right?
Yes.
So, and
exactly.
I think the only way this could work eventually is not to put this on the shoulders of governments and countries, but like create like a foundation or something, like some sort of organization that is equally owned by all these major publishers and or developers, like companies. They all contribute like a certain amount every year to keep this thing going, and they all share in the whatever profits or returns there are from people renting these games, right? So it had to be like I think we're all in agreement, it has to be like a concerted effort. They all have to band together somehow, which is probably the hardest part of all of this, is for all of them to come together and agree that they should do something and agree upon what that should be.
The companies can realize that instead of sitting on a game, not earning revenue for it because you're not selling it, then maybe you could like have all of your history of games continuously giving you this like consistent revenue, because it's always there. At the same time as you stop people from going and getting used to pirating your games, because that's what they are gonna do. If you see the value in that, which there is, then the problem is gonna be solved. But I think the problem is just that they are just like, no, I'm gonna sit on these games. Oh, can we play with them? No, you're not gonna. They're my games. They're my games. Like, come on, let us play with the games if you're not even selling them. It's not that difficult.
Yeah. So JP has mentioned something that I think we all, when we spoke about this before the show, we mentioned this as well. So we're not getting that solution, that like, you know, mythical utopian solution that we were discussing anytime soon. Hopefully one day, but for now, is this a potential workaround? So Jamie mentioned companies like Digital Eclipse, who are releasing some of these games. Also, making documentary series about the history of these games. Is this a potential workaround, a potential like temporary fix while we don't get a more permanent solution? What do you think?
Sorry, I missed the idea here.
So,
Just a comment.
companies releasing compilations of old games. So, Digital Eclipse specifically has done this with, instead of just releasing one game, if there's, for example, the Ninja Turtles games, they take all the games from like the Mega Drive games, the NES games, the Super NES games, they release it all together as part of a compilation dedicated to that series. They did that with Aladdin, with Lion King. So could this be a temporary solution to this problem?
If it's on PC, I would say, yeah, maybe. If it's locked to a specific console that's going to be obsolete, maybe not.
It's going to be a problem.
All games are going that way.
Because then you're going to have to
Like,
rebuy the games for the next console and then rebuy the games for the next console. That's not really fair, in my opinion.
it's like a temporary solution, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the Atari 40 collection, like I mentioned, is probably that type of idea. It comprises games and documentary, like a mini documentary. It's really cool if you haven't tried it out, by the way. Atari 40. It's probably the game that does this sort of preservation the best in terms of like this format, because you've got all of the history of Atari alongside developers talking about the games, and they've pieced it together in a timeline. It's really a great way of experiencing these classic games, and it's not like something that's a hard sell like Pong. Do you know what I mean? If you show Pong to a group of teenage students these days, it's all right, mate. You can keep your Pong. But in this format, it's like, okay, I can try it for 2 minutes, see what it was all about, get a bit of history on it. Okay, I kind of understand now. This was a technical masterpiece because of, it was the very first video game ever produced, almost, kind of thing. It was like, this is what started the video game chain that potentially led to me going home and playing on Fortnite or GTA 5. It all began here, and it's kind of cool to see that history. And that is kind of the shame with this preservation aspect, that there are going to be all of these games that are going to be missed by a lot of people. So you mentioned, say, the Cowabunga collection. It's a semi-popular series. It's a viable thing for them to do, to comprise all of them. They know they're going to make the money back on it, at least. Whereas these games that are stuck in the past, that companies aren't willing to bring back or, preserve, whatever, because there's no money in it for them. And so this little library solution, pie in the sky idea, is the incentive that they may be able to go back and look at the history and bring back some of these classics that we think are classics, but the general public never heard of. Rocket Knight Adventure or something like that. It's like, if you say that out loud in a college, how many people are going to know what you're on about? So if there was a way for them to understand, and even if they only play the game for 2 minutes, it needs to be.
That's another thing that, like, we've talked about, the pros of the preservation, and you just touched on another one. Discovering series, discovering a whole new thing, like that may be like an ongoing series, like the Sonic games. Maybe you find a game there, oh, what's this, a Sonic the Hedgehog, the original, I guess I'll try that. Oh, this is awesome. And now you've discovered that game because of that, and that maybe makes you want to continue. And then that's gonna, you're gonna create fans
like
with
a Netflix
that,
series,
and that's
where
also
you watch a
valuable.
Show and it says you might like this.
Something like that. So like it's like you get a continuous revenue, you deter people from privacy, and you risk creating new fans.
I think we've touched upon something very important here, which is information, education, right? We need to educate people.
SEGA education.
SEGA education is a specific one, but no generic game education is important, so that people understand the importance of game preservation as well, right? So Jamie mentioned the upcoming documentary about this game by Jordan Mechner, Karateka, I think, how you pronounce it, perhaps.
Luke Skywalker.
It looks like, but it's not. So this is a classic game that they are talking about. This is like if I'm not mistaken, like the precursor to Prince of Persia and games like that. So this is an interesting idea, right? So and we're familiar with documentaries about games, like the Shenmue documentary that we all, or at least myself and James, we love about Shenmue. That documentary about Jet Set Radio Future that we covered on this show a few episodes ago. So documentaries about games are an interesting way for people to get educated, and if they know the games and the history behind them, why they were culturally important, even important for the industry, groundbreaking in some cases, maybe that'll motivate them to want to play and try those games and look at them from a different perspective, like not just, oh, this is an arcade game, very old, poor graphics. No, they'll understand the importance of the game, and maybe they'll appreciate it a little bit more. So that's probably part of the solution as well, to educate the public, the people, in terms of the importance, the cultural importance of games, specific games that are maybe more important than others, and maybe that will motivate people to get behind this preservation movement as well. I don't know.
What do you think on like an academic level, like taught in schools?
So Matt was saying, make gaming history compulsory. So this should be like, who cares about World War II? Just talk about Pong and Sonic the Hedgehog.
Call of Duty World War.
Yes, of course. I don't know. Maybe not at a school level, but
like
I don't know,
when you get to pick and choose where you want your career to go.
I was thinking, when you have this library with games, why not bundle that together with a documentary about the game or the series, if there is one? That would be very interesting.
Really cool.
There should be more documentaries about games, like proper good ones, because sometimes they're either too complex or very simplistic, I feel. There was a Netflix series which was interesting and done in an okay way, I think. I don't know if you guys watched that.
Was it?
Yeah, High Score, which was, I think, a good way of doing something like this. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
but many of them are like very simplistic. Don't cover the important things that we as gamers value, or very complex and very detailed and not interesting for the general public. So
you're going to find a lot of your specific documentaries on YouTube, really, aren't you? Made by fans, like you say, the Jet Set Radio documentary. That's where you're going to discover the ins and outs.
That's probably they have to be done in an interesting way for the general public to appreciate it.
Yeah,
feel like they're worth their time. So, yeah.
I mean, technically, movies. I make documentaries on movies where the cast, the producers, the directors. You don't see enough of that in video games. You don't see it takes a fan to create the Shenmue documentary where you've got Yu Suzuki down and he's talking about the game. There isn't just an open means where you get to delve deep into the behind the scenes of video games and hear from the actual directors and stuff. It's, you might get like a printed article in a magazine or on, Dual Shockers or something, but you don't actually see them like you do in the other forms of media.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to Sega Forever, by the way, who do interesting videos, but usually more focused on the fans at least at this point. And maybe, Danny Russell, if you're watching, Scott, if you're watching, why
Did you call
not
him Daddy or Danny? Sounded like Daddy.
Danny Russell, Daddy Russell. If you're watching, maybe focus on that. Like, sit down with the people who made these games. You certainly have access to all these Japanese legends, and most fans don't. So making a Shenmue documentary and asking fans to travel to Japan and sitting down with Yu Suzuki, that was like quite an achievement and an endeavor. So
Yeah.
if you have easy access to these people, because many of these games were developed by Japanese companies, and we certainly don't have a lot of information or easy access to them either. So please use your influence and your access to get us more information on these games, and for people to understand the importance of Sega games as well. Yeah. Okay. So I think we are very close to being done with our show. We said an hour and a half. It's a little bit over that, but it's okay.
Uh-oh.
Go for 2 hours.
I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, me too.
for the last few minutes, I asked you guys to think about games, specific games that you would feel right now that need to come back in some shape or form. So it doesn't matter if it's through that library pie in the sky idea, if it's through a re-release or a remaster. What are your like ideal games that have been lost to time and that you would like to see come back? Who wants to go
Go on,
first?
Lime, you go first, man.
Still thinking. Lime
I
is
can
still
go first
thinking.
if you want, Lime.
I don't know about ideal, but I've definitely
She's like,
had because I 100% games, and I'm starting to get to the games that I can't really get. So I've been recently feeling like the whole need for preservation thing. Like I wanted to get to the DLC for Sonic 06, for example.
okay.
And the only way that I would able to get to get that was I needed to borrow an Xbox 360 because the store there, it's available, and I could get the DLC from there as well. But it's on a console that is not in production, so I mean it's on the store, but you can't really get the console officially. So that's. I would count that as a game that is not in release, and I was so looking forward to that. Like, especially Sonic was like say what you will about Sonic 06, but it's such an important part of Sonic history. It really is, and I looked so much forward to having done that game, like including the DLC to really experience that history, to experience what everybody was talking about. And like there was, I couldn't just get a console officially. I needed to borrow it or alternatively find it secondhand. Now I'm gonna try to get a Wii or a Wii U to get to Sonic and the Secret Rings, Sonic and the Black Knight, both discontinued as far as I know last time I checked. And then the Wii PS2 version of Sonic Unleashed as well.
Okay.
I need and want to get back to those games. They are not necessarily the best games in even in my opinion, but as a 100%er, first of all, I do want to get to them. And I don't know, I kind of enjoyed them when I played them. I haven't played Sonic and the Black Knight, but Sonic and the Secret Rings, for example. I did enjoy that one. I thought that the storytelling was very good as well. I would definitely look forward to getting back to that. And like, so it's not necessarily, this is, I would love for this. I long for this game, but it's just like, I want it and I need it for my mission.
Okay. I need it for reasons.
I need it for my mission. To satisfy.
Yeah. I have to say, I started appreciating Sonic 06 much more after starting to watch your gameplay of it.
Really, that's awesome.
Seriously.
That's heartwarming.
I can't think of Sonic 06 now without thinking about you and the way in your streams. Because I used to, I don't say I hate Sonic 06, but I was never able to complete it because I got annoyed with glitches, with the loading times. I've tried, I think 3 or 4 different times in different years, like subsequent years or consecutive years. And I always...
Didn't take that long to load.
Almost. I always gave up at some point. I started from the beginning, and I always gave up at some point. I think the last time I tried was the one that I went farther, but I gave up at some point. But now I think about you playing the game and your songs and your energy, so that makes me appreciate the game a little bit more. So I thank you for that. I thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. What about you, James? What game or games would you like to see come back somehow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's loads of obvious Sega titles. Panzer Dragoon Saga, said. Jet Set Radio Future is, a big one. Skies of Arcadia, KC, you were saying that just the other day on one of your shows. It's one of the big titles that everyone's craving for again because it's been so long. And then you've got these games that shut down Afterburner Climax. I wish I could just pull it off my shelf, but I can't. Outrun Arcade, even the Outrun games on the original Xbox. I know that the online arcade game was essentially the same thing, but just you've got no access to this stuff anymore.
Simpler.
The Sonic Advance trilogy, like I mentioned, Rocket Knight Adventures. There's a lot of like Mega Drive games sort of trapped. I know we got the Mega Drive Minis, but we didn't see them on there. Like, I love Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. I don't know how viable that is to bring back, but it's a great game. Choo Choo Rocket, we had that remake, not remake, but that sequel on mobile, and now that's gone. So it's like these games that they've even brought back that have gone, that have been lost. Fantasy Star Online as well, the original one, the original Xbox is literally a coaster now, unless you hack into your console and do something to connect to someone's private server. Because they created that game where it needed an online connection to actually start, which is mental. Considering the game is on the disc, it's just
and that's another problem with
the title screen. That's another problem that I'm sure we could have covered at some point. But and the final thing I will mention is, in general, arcade games, they are potentially the hardest to preserve, right? So these games, light gun games, for example, that in 2022 you have to get some specialist fan-made gun. I forget what it's called. This begins with an S. But there's no viable way of playing light gun games anymore. A little bit in VR. That's why I'm quite a big advocate for PSVR and that sort of stuff, because I do really, really love light gun games. But they're a slow dying genre of video games. You've even got the House of the Dead remake that you can only play with a controller. So, where's the fun in that? But Virtua Cop 3 was an amazing game in the arcade. You don't see it anywhere anymore. These bowling alleys and stuff, unless they've got a knackered up old Virtua Cop 3 arcade stand or whatever. You literally cannot play that game anymore. Again, apart from emulation. So I don't know how games preservation would go about doing those type of games, those like physical, they require hand controls, like the skiing game, you know, when you go to the arcade, or the snowboard game or something like that. Or, that is a topic in itself, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my Sega picks anyway. Panzer Dragoon Saga, Jet Set Radio Future, and Skies of Arcadia.
Okay.
And Shenmue 4.
Great ones. I think we needed a lot of work in terms of preserving arcade games. We haven't really touched on them, but we're mostly thinking about consoles, but arcade is a whole other beast, a whole other subject to cover on another show. By the way, a shout out to Hayato 3D, who has to go, but thank you very much for listening to the show on Radio Sega. Bye-bye. As for my picks, you guys mentioned most of them, if not all. I think Jet Set Radio Future is probably the big one at the top of my list. I experienced it through emulation, but I think it really should. It makes no sense to me that this game is not available in current gen systems on PC somewhere. Makes no sense at all. And Sega keep re-releasing, or have done it a few times, the original game, keep promoting like merchandising of the original game and stuff. We don't see any mention of JSRF.
I find it's those original Xbox titles. There's like something, I think, with them. You don't see any of them. Like Panzer Dragoon Auto.
Yeah.
You know, there's this Otogi, was it? These games
Orta
that just
is
have
available digitally, though, isn't it? At least if you own it digitally, I think so. Because I bought it.
What was that one? Sorry,
Orta. I think I think I can still play Orta on my Xbox One.
Yeah, like a backwards compatibility thing. Yeah,
because I have it digitally. I bought it on the 360 days. I think. Not sure if it's still available. Resident SD says that the soundtrack is an issue with GSRF. I don't know. Doesn't really make much sense. Maybe
it'll be like the Beastie Boys one.
Could it be?
Not Funky Dealer. There's a Beastie Boys song. I don't think it's specifically.
I don't see them. I don't know if they have any problems with licensing that.
Maybe not, but then it's like the offspring in it, in a sense, with Crazy Taxi. Again, it's a crazy thing. The game's there. It's, you know, I can boot it up on my Dreamcast. It makes no sense that I can't play Crazy Taxi, and you know, you've got to have some random
punk song
music. Yeah.
So Jet Set Radio Future for sure, at the top of my list. I would say as well, specifically Mega Drive. I think I would love to. You know, they're small games, short games, but I would love Sparkster, which is the sequel to Rocket Knight Adventures, and World of Illusion, which is a very short game by current standards, but one that I love very much. I'm very nostalgic for. Although that doesn't count because it's on the Mega Drive Mini 2, isn't it?
I think
so. Is Sparkster on there too? I don't think so.
I don't think.
But I think World of Illusion is.
Maybe World of Illusion. I'll have to double check.
I think it is.
I feel like it may have been Castle of Illusion, right?
Castle of Illusion was in the first one. I don't know. I'm not sure at this point. I don't know. I'm a terrible Sega fan. But I don't remember. But yeah, maybe it is. If it is...
According to Jamie, World and Castle is on the first, apparently.
Okay. So, and Sparkster is on none of the minis. So forget World of Illusion. Go play it on the Mega Drive Mini and bring back Sparkster.
But even the minis you can't really buy anymore, right?
That's a whole another problem, right?
Yeah.
So all of these temporary fixes are just temporary because of that. You, at some point, the systems become unavailable. You can't play games on current gen systems. So something needs to be done on a deeper level, right?
Indeed.
Yeah.
The system needs to be rethought.
So as Resident SD says, basically we're all screwed. And on that positive note, oh, actually no. Let me mention. Jamie mentioned Nightshade, aka Kunoichi for the PS2. Yes. So that's a sequel to the Shinobi game, and that should be brought back as well. Yes. So that's a good shout. Thank you, Jamie. So James and Lime, anything you would like to add to this discussion before we go?
No.
Not that I can
Go buy your
think of now.
games, keep them on your shelf for all eternity, and hope that you don't
Back
get
them
destroyed.
up. Although that's
Let
sort
us
of
play the
illegal as
games.
well. Oh my God. Okay, Lime. Okay, I will.
You've got to hear what he sounds like to me.
Not
as well.
you,
It's
the
like
companies. Stop.
an echoey,
Like
God, I absolutely
a mob of limes.
go play your games.
Yeah, so guys, thank you very much for joining me for this special live episode of the SEGA Lounge. For people listening in or watching right now or listening into the podcast version, hope you enjoyed this. Hope you enjoyed this discussion. Let us know your thoughts at the SEGA Lounge on Twitter. Let us know if you have any other picks, if you have any other potential solutions. This is a topic that we could, keep talking about for ages. Ha! See what I did there? Ages? Okay, no, never mind. But
It's going to take ages for me to get that joke.
Okay. That said, where can people find you, Lime Reversed?
Line Reversed on Twitch and on Twitter.
There we go. Simple and
There you go,
effective.
nice and simple.
Yeah. What about you, SkillJim?
SkillJim, at SkillJim Twitter, ShenmueDojo.com for everything else. If you like Shenmue, you've enjoyed listening to my voice, we also do a show called The Shenmue Dojo Show that you can download and listen to, me and Matt. That's it.
Excellent.
Pretty much.
And every other week on the SEGA Lounge as well.
Of course, and TerraPlayer.
Oh, and TerraPlayer.
Yeah.
Of course, TerraPlayer. TerraPlayer.com. Hashtag ad.
Casey, you're being corrected and chat.
Yes, it's Twitch affiliate Lime Reversed to you, Casey. I apologize, Mr. Twitch affiliate Lime Reversed. Yes. Okay, so guys, thank you very much for watching, for listening. The SEGA Lounge will return next week. I'm recording a new interview tomorrow, actually. In the wee hours of the morning. So hope you come back next week for more. We will return to this format. If you guys enjoyed it, let me know, by the way, if you guys enjoyed watching/listening to this format of show. If so, maybe we'll do this again soon, right? I think it was fun. It was really fun to be able to see you guys and interact with you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the addition of being able to see you as well. Yeah. And it's always fun discussions, interesting discussions as well. And, I hope that I was able to get my points across pretty clearly, at least.
I think so. Let us play games. So that was pretty clear. Pretty clear.
Very clear, I hope.
Yeah.
So, and of course, check out thesegalounge.com for previous episodes. Check out our socials at the SEGA Lounge. We're always around, not as much as I wanted because I'm really bad at social media, but I try. At least we do the podcasts and we have fun. So take care. Enjoy the rest of the week. Yeah, have a great weekend. Thank you guys for watching on Twitch. Thank you guys for watching on for listening on Radio Sega, and for everyone downloading the podcast. My deepest thanks. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Bye, guys. Bye. The SEGA Lounge, hosted by me, KC, and part of Radio Sega's network of live shows and podcasts. Theme song and incidental music by OSC. Find them at opussciencecollective.bandcamp.com. Got any suggestions? Drop me an email to podcast@thesegalounge.com. Find us at The SEGA Lounge on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find previous episodes of the show by going to thesegalounge.com and wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. a Mixed On Productions podcast.